Welcome back. Tragic events could lead to long-term trauma, but how do you recognize the signs? Nathan Miller with Volunteer Behavioral Health joining us now to talk more about this. Nathan, good morning. Always a pleasure to have you here. Let's start with the basics, though. We hear the term trauma all the time, but what exactly does it mean? How do you all define that?
Well, trauma is something that can come from either one incident or a series of events that happens in someone's life.
Okay.
It's either emotionally disturbing or it may be, feel life-threatening to them.
Okay, so what kind of things or events are included in situations that could create trauma?
Well, some of the main things that we would look for are abuse, childhood abuse, those type of things, physical abuse, neglect, violence, and even disasters. And the disaster could be either man-made or say a plane crash or wildfires or something like that.
Yeah,
so,
we just saw
flooding.
The Antioch High School shooting. We've seen the flooding you just mentioned, the plane crashes. So they're outside of your own personal life. Things that are beyond your control or that don't even directly touch you can create traumatic experiences. And
that's correct. Media coverage, things like that, seeing it, being exposed to it. Talking about the plane crash, I recently flew and after the initial crash we had a few weeks ago, very traumatizing, very scary, for people getting on planes.
Right.
And that's very natural for that to happen.
Yeah, I definitely feel that way too, someone who's not a fan of flying to begin with. But so when you're thinking about trauma, what are some of the signs that people need to look for to say, okay, I am experiencing this specific thing?
Well, with trauma, anxiety can develop, depression can develop, grief can develop, and even guilt, depending on whether or not you were involved in those. Okay. So those are some main things that we can look for. If trauma is long-term, sometimes post-traumatic stress disorder can develop. Just because you have some of the symptoms doesn't mean that you have post-traumatic stress disorder, but some of those can include irritability, nightmares, flashbacks that are very vivid, isolation, those type of things, loss of motivation, lack of motivation. Those are just a few of the things that can come out of trauma.
Okay. Now, when it comes to post-traumatic stress disorder, is that something that has to be clinically diagnosed, or is that something that people can look for signs personally?
You can look for signs personally, but a diagnosis clinical is the best way to go with that.
Okay.
Because, like I said, if you have one or two of those symptoms, maybe that's not you. Okay. It is possible to have the symptoms without having the diagnosis, and when you're trying to get care and treatment, it's very important that you have the correct diagnosis. Okay.
So before people decide to go out and seek professional help, what are some personal changes that they can do to help themselves?
Well, as always, eat, sleep, well, exercise, those type of things, and find somebody that's very supportive of you, that you can talk to. And if those natural things that we do in our daily lives don't pan out, go ahead and seek out professional help. Go see a counselor, go see a psychiatrist. Even your local PCP is a good place to start sometimes that can help you on that route.
Okay. All right, great advice as always. Thank you so much, Nathan. Good to see you. Folks will have more information. You can watch this segment again and get Nathan's advice. Just go to WKRN.com.